So today on BS Garage, we're going to be working on shocks. We put a big brake kit on the Impala, but they're running into them. So we need to relocate these suckers. Let's get to it. So big. So what we have behind me here is my 1965 Chevy Impala SS clone with a 409 big block right here and a Muncie 4-speed over there. Picked this car up about 2 years ago and I've dubbed it a pain in my ass ever since. So I was actually driving this thing about a month ago, believe it or not, but due to my camshaft being too big and these 409 blocks being a little testy, can I say that? I just did. The camshaft lift on the exhaust side was too high and it was hitting the pistons. Just barely, just a little bit, but that's enough to be like, that's no bueno. So out came the engine and went to the machine shop. We're going to be doing a bunch of upgrades to that engine. I have it actually sitting right there. But here's a list of other things that we got to get done because I decided to upgrade them along the way. Wiring, the engine, brakes, the engine, rear end, the engine, transmission, the engine. Oh yeah, did I mention the engine? Also the shocks. That's what we're going to be trying to tackle today. I need to clearance them. I need to kind of move them around. I'll show you exactly what I have to do and how I'm going to do it and why I have to do it. So let's check it out. So here's the issue I'm having with the shocks. This car has air ride on it, which means that the shock no longer goes through the normal shock tower. And originally I built those brackets right there in order to hold the shock against the lower control arm. But now with these big brakes on here from CPP, if I can turn it, I'm going to attempt to turn this. Here we go. Bam. Let's see if we can see this in here. It hits. So that's not good. We need it to hit on the steering stop and not the shock, obviously. So we're gonna relocate these shocks. We're gonna try to pull them in more and then relocate the bottom to push them in more. And then also I have new bushings, like polyurethane bushings to go in there because those are brand new, but they're already kind of like dry rot out. Maybe because they're under so much compression, who knows. So let's get to it. I got the other side cut off. Let me show you how I'm gonna fix it. Basically, I just have a piece of angle iron here that I'm going to use as the new support because when I cut out the old shock
support brackets. They were a bit too high. So I'm going to reuse the eyelet there. I'm going to cut that section out, and then I'll weld it into whatever length section that I actually need in order to make this work. But first we gotta clean this up, take some measurements, start cutting. We'll tack weld it all into place, and then we'll cycle it through its suspension and turn it with the brakes, and then make sure nothing hits before we finally burn this thing in.
So I just removed the lower bag bracket mount from the lower control arm because I need to clean this up and then reattach the shock mount to it a little bit further in. I already have my marks of where I want that to be, so I'm just going to go over to my bench over there, clean this thing up, tack weld that in place to make sure they're good strong tacks so it doesn't break off like it did already once, and then put that back together in order to get my measurement for shock height. Welding outside definitely isn't ideal. You shouldn't do it. It makes the gas, go everywhere instead of focusing on the tunnel. It's a little porous on my tacks, but it's gonna work. It'll be fine. I'll go back, I'll clean it up later. I'll make sure I weld it inside with the door closed. So we've got the lower bag bracket back in place on the lower control arm with the shock mount tab tack welded on there. And I have the jack stand pushing up on the lower control arm to give it max low, but I'm running into an issue where because I moved this in further and then back, it is hitting on the spring pocket here. So I'm gonna have to clearance this out, and then also keep in mind where this shock bolt comes out, and then clearance this area out. It's not a big deal. This isn't really structural. All your structure is kind of like on the inside of that. So I got plenty of room to like clean this up, make sure everything clears and smooth it out. So let's get everything out of the way and protect that bag and start cutting that up. Got our clearances made. You can see it's not touching that anymore. And with the bag at maximum collapse, I took a couple of zip ties and put them around the shock in order to compress the shock all the way in order to get an accurate measurement. Because now all we have to do is take that angle iron and build a bracket that goes from the frame here up to an eyelet up top here to mount this. Because we know that it can't go any further than that, and that's all the way compressed. So we will be golden right in this area. So I'm gonna take a couple measurements here and fab up that bracket. I now have that custom shock bracket just tack welded up into where I believe is going to be a really good place. So now we have to put the brake assembly back on, just mock everything back up, and then go through all the motions to see if we're good. One more thing that we need to consider is how far that shock
can drop down. Now this is its max. This is the furthest it's going to extend. But if I was to drop this floor jack out from underneath here, it's going to extend even more. And that's going to put a lot of stress on that shock, and we don't want that to happen. So I picked up these universal bump stops, and I think that if I put it in underneath the upper control arm here, just kind of put a hole like right there, it'll come down and it will come in contact with the frame for the exact height that this is, minus a little bit. So it'll scrunch that just a tiny bit so it doesn't put any stress on that shock. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to put a hole right there. That worked out perfectly. So you can see we got the jack out from underneath there. It's resting on that bump stop exactly where I wanted it, and the shock is not pulling away from the mount whatsoever. Awesome. All right, check it out. You can see now we have lots of room between the caliper and the shock, and it is hitting on that steer stop right down in here. So now we've got to blow it apart again, finish weld everything, clean everything up, paint it, not to mention do this all over again completely on the other side. It's probably where I'm going to call it for today. Not bad for a day's worth of work. Got that bracket all cleaned up nice, finish welded, and then painted a nice black. Same thing with the chassis. Got a heat lamp on it right now. Just cleaned it up really well. Hit it with some Scotch-Brite and then wiped it down again with wax and grease remover. Yeah, bud. I'll just give this tonight to dry, and then I will assemble this side tomorrow and then get back on it on the other side. Passenger side all back together. Now we just got to knock out the driver's side now that we have a solid game plan. So I got this side all tore apart already. We're going to cut that bracket off here right now, start modifying. Got that driver's side all knocked out. It's all pulled back together after being painted. And I actually went ahead and made up all new brake lines for the front, for the line lock system. That's pretty much the last step inside here. But let's throw these wheels on and put them back on the stands and see how low it sits. And we're done. Check it out. You can totally see these brakes behind these solid wheels. Not really. It's a safety thing for me. Plus, I know they're there. It's an upgrade that, for the money, why not do it? These factory spindles actually sit at the perfect ride height that I want for it to be completely aired out, so nothing is actually going to hit. It doesn't lay frame. It's nothing crazy. So if you do have an issue with a bag or something going bad, you can still drive this thing. Like, everything still rolls. And that's what I really like about this setup. So, yeah, it actually took a lot longer than I thought, but that's how it goes with everything when you work on cars, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's wrapped up. Now we're gonna get moving on the engine next. Just remember, get busy wrenching, and thanks for watching.
and hit that like button if you liked it, if you made it this far, and consider subscribing. I don't know, I'll have more stuff like this coming up. So, bye. Holy shit, this thing's kind of heavy.